They risked their lives to bring it, so David refused to drink it. David understood that the most valuable things that we have in our lives don't belong to us. They're only meant for God. My second point is this. Only God is deserving of our lives because only He is worthy of our greatest love. Only God is deserving of our lives because only He is worthy of our greatest love. We're going to look at David again, 2 Samuel chapter 23, not too far from our original passage. So in point 1, we see David say to us, I'm not going to give God something that cost me nothing. This is an important understanding that my worship has to cost me something. I'm so thankful today as the worship team was leading us. I'm so thankful for our worship team who wakes up 6:30, 7 a.m. to come into practice, get the music ready for us, leads us into worship, stays for 2 services. Costly. It costs something for them to be here. I'm thankful for our children's volunteers, children's ministry and youth ministry volunteers who give up their Sunday mornings to even worship with us. Many of them can't worship because they're with the kids. And so because they can't worship, they'll come during the second worship. Our youth helpers who come Sunday evenings, different volunteers that are here helping with all this. It's costly, not convenient. Only God is deserving of our lives because only He is worthy of our greatest love. 2 Samuel chapter 23. Let me describe what's happening for us here, and then we'll go ahead and we'll read here. David is in the caves still. He has yet to be anointed king. And he's going ahead and fighting, right, the enemies of Israel, the Philistines. And so imagine, he's been doing this for years now. Years in the desert. Years trying to find food, water, housed with his 40 men. He just mentions, because one of these days he's really tired, he's really thirsty, just mentions, briefly, not talking to anyone specifically, he says, if I could only drink the water from the wells of Bethlehem like I used to when I was a child. Just mentions it, not talking to anyone, just talking in the midst of the desert, in the midst of the war. He says, if I could only go back to Bethlehem and get a little bit of that cold, clear water, it would be so good. 3 of his most trusted friends hear him. They look at each other. We got to go get this water. They fight through tens of thousands of enemy soldiers that have fortified not only where they are, but the city of Bethlehem. They break into Bethlehem, these 3 soldiers, fighting tens of thousands of enemy combatants. As they're fighting, one of them says, we're here at the well. He says, cover me. The other 2 are fighting off these soldiers. He takes the bucket, fills it up with water, puts it into their little container. Maybe, I don't know, it's what are those expensive water cups that, yeah. Maybe it's one of those. Fills it up. They fight their way back. They give it to David. 2 Samuel chapter 23, would I ever like a drink of water from the well at the gate of Bethlehem? So the 3, on hearing this, penetrated the Philistine lines, drew water from the well at the gate of Bethlehem, and brought it back to David. But David wouldn't drink it. Look at this. He poured it out as an offering to God. saying, "There is no way, God, that I'll drink this. This isn't just water, it's their blood. They risked their lives to bring it." So David refused to drink it. David understood that the most valuable things that we have in our lives don't belong to us. They're only meant for God. Only God is deserving our lives because only He is worthy of our greatest love. If the purpose of us getting up every morning is for my family, for my children, for my wife, for my career, for my future, for my retirement, the end is always the same. We feel and burnt out. But when we live for God, when we give the most valuable thing that we have, which is our lives, for the purposes of God, we feel joy, peace, patience, love, goodness, kindness, gentleness, self-control. It's only when we go ahead and offer our lives to God that we find what we're looking for. Real love found in Him. If He's the reason why we get up every day, to give Him glory in all we do, to meet Him, to be transformed by Him, then we become the living sacrifice that Paul talks about in Romans chapter 12. This is what Romans 12 says. "Therefore I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship." Do I have parents of young children here? Do you have like a 10-year-old? If you are a mother or father of a 10-year-old or younger, could you put your hand up here real quick? All right. I'm going to give you something today. This is a gold nugget for you guys. I got something for you. I want you to go ahead and take down this passage. It's Colossians chapter 3, verse 23. Colossians chapter 3, verse 23. Colossians 3:23 says this: "Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters, since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. It is the Lord Christ you are serving." I'm going to say that part again. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as if working for the Lord, not for human masters. When my children were young, I used to tell them, I said, when we sing to God, that's worship. But it's probably the lowest form of worship. And I'm saying that to you as a worship leader. Singing to God is important because it's corporate worship. We get to do it all together at one time. But there's not much of a cost to it, unless you're very, very shy and anxious about how your voice sounds. There's not usually a very high cost to it. But I said a greater form of worship and love to God is to go ahead and live our life as if it was a gift to God. So I told my children, I said, you can give God your grades as a worship if you do it for God. If you go to school and your teacher says we have a test, and you go home and you study that test, not because you want to get a grade to go to college, because you need college to be a success in this life, to get the job, to go ahead and get the paycheck, to get the house, to go ahead and get the family, if you go ahead and study for that test because you want people to know that you love God, and you went ahead and prepared because of your love for God, that grade becomes worship. So I told my children this. My daughter, who is now 16, going on 17, she's going to be a senior, has gotten all A's since she was in preschool. There were nights, especially this past year, when she's taking AP Physics, AP Chemistry, AP Calculus, when she's doing an internship, playing varsity basketball, captain of her dance. There were times when I said to her, I was like, baby girl, like, if you get a B, it's okay. You know what she said to me? I'm not going to let God down. I don't know if that's healthy. I don't know if that's a healthy attitude, but I know this, it was costly. There were nights that she stayed up because she says, I can't give God B's. I've got to give him A's. We can go ahead, parents. In this world, I've seen parents threaten children because of grades. I've seen parents try to scare kids into getting grades. If you don't get an A, you're never going to make anything of your life. What kind of life are you going to have? I've seen every type of motivation. Use love instead. Your Father loves you. Give him a worship that is costly. We can, as workers, no longer look at our jobs as the place we have to go to get a paycheck. You can look at your work as a place you can go to show God you love him. Every day I go into my classroom, I say, God, I'm here because of you, because I love you. Help me to do whatever you want me to do. You know, my students, one of my students, about 15 years ago, I'm teaching something completely unrelated to what we're talking about. Thermodynamics in my AP chemistry class. I look at this one student. This student is a class clown. I've talked to him many, many times. I probably talked to him 3-4 times even that week of stop being a deterrent, stop being a distraction. Good kid though. One day I'm talking, and as I'm looking at him, I see a change in his face. He just doesn't look the same way that he normally does. And it's so different that I actually have to stop and say, hey, let's call him John. Say, John, are you okay? He says, I don't know what's happening. And he starts crying. And everyone's looking, it's uncomfortable. Everyone's looking at him. They're looking at me like, what's going on here? And I said, John, tell me what's going on. Are you hurt? Do you need to go to the nurse's office? Is everything okay at home? And he says, no, none of that. He says, I feel like how I feel at church on Sundays. I said, what do you mean? He goes, I feel like I'm loved by God. And he's just crying. 16-year-old boy. He says, I don't know why when you're talking about thermodynamics, why I'm feeling this, but I do. And later on, I go ahead and I meet with him at lunch and we just talk about that and I bless him and I pray for him. We can bring God into the classroom. We can bring God into your workplaces and people will look at you because you're doing it for God. There will be a change that the world cannot explain. There was a movie called Chariots of Fire. Has anyone here watched that movie? It's based on a true events that happened. There was one of the protagonists called Eric Liddell, and his pursuit of competitive running and winning an Olympic medal in the 1924 Olympics. His sister is a devout Christian and missionary and sees that his competitive running was silly and wanted him to quit and return back to China as a missionary. And as they're talking, this is what he says in the movie. When I run, I feel God's pleasure. To win is to honor him. That's transformative. To think that as he does this thing that he knows he was created to do, he feels the pleasure of God on his life. Like we see here in Romans 12. When we give our lives to him, it's holy and pleasing to God. Have you ever thought of that? Have you ever thought of, I can live my life in a way where I live it for God and experience his pleasure? I experience this every day in my classroom. Every day as I'm teaching, I experience the pleasure of God. I just know that he's smiling over me as I do what he's called me to do. We can experience that in this room today.